Hey, do you want to make videos like me? Well, you're in luck because my partner Humble Bundle is currently offering a bundle filled with audio and video editing software to get you started. They're even offering an updated version of the editing software that I started off with right here on this channel. And the best thing? You can choose where your money goes. So even if you can't stand my face, you can make sure that your money ends up where it makes a difference. So what are you waiting for? Check out my affiliate link in the description below and get editing. I will be the first to admit that there are a lot of bold claims I've made in my time playing Overwatch. One of the funny things about this game is that whatever hero you deem to be overpowered or barely even an inconvenience, it always depends on what characters you like to play. When I suggested that the vast majority of people probably hate Sombra because of her literally being designed to not allow you to play the video game, you know what a lot of you guys were toted with? Bastion? Yep. Unironically, Bastion. While I'm not planning to devote an entire episode to the PTSD robot, if the internet is anything to go by, it seems like even more players hate Brigitte over heroes like Sombra and Bastion. Now, of course, complaints of that nature are often coming from the competitive community and the fact that Brig has been a crucial part of the meta for a very, very long time. But much like a lot of you guys say that you don't care about Sombra and Doomfist as much as I do, personally, I don't actually hate Brig as much as the competitive community. As a Zenyatta main, provided my character was actually playable, I don't often have a very hard time dealing with the Shield Maiden. Even if she runs at me using her ultimate, a few well-placed orbs are usually enough to take her down. Naturally, I recognize that not every character in the game has access to that level of burst damage, but let's also not forget that not every character has a hitbox the size of a moon. So as far as I'm concerned, you can go cry your beta damage tiers elsewhere. I mean, it's not like I don't understand why particularly DPS players hate playing against that character, especially when you do hilarious things like 1v1ing a Dragonblade and Genji, and actually coming out victorious. But at the same time, if it's okay for their mere existence to force me off of my favorite hero, then I'm definitely not feeling bad about switching to Brig and beating them into a pulp. At this point, you're the one that has awakened the beast. All I wanted to do is play Zenyatta, but no, you had to go and play fun characters like Doomfist and Sombra. Do you actually, in all seriousness, without the faintest hint of meme in your mind, think that at that point I will take pity upon your pathetic existence? Wow, playing Brig really does change you, doesn't it? Anyway, there is a good reason for my current crusade against the DPS category and all the wondrous DLC characters that have been added to that roster. So before they hit Brig with yet another nerf hammer, I decided to annoy some DPS players one last time, meaning we continue what we started on our last episode. After having greatly suffered in the tank role, it was time to put the scales of judgment back into balance, and the best way to achieve that was via means of petty revenge. What better hero to deliver my vengeance than the one that was previously used against me? There is a point in every man's life playing Overwatch where victory becomes of secondary concern over their desire to want to prove a point. Said point being, if I can't have fun, neither can you. The sheer presence of my Sombra pick caused a lot of my enemies to grant me more respect than I realistically had any right to demand. But yet again, here I stand proving that holding right click is superior to any of their sad attempts of using skill. But as I've been farming Hammond players time and time again, much like they harassed me when I was playing Zenyatta, I came to the realization that I was spending a lot of time bullying tanks and not so much time annoying DPS players. And for some reason, it's far more tilting to them to die to Brigitte than being denied access to their hero's abilities. But hey, if that's what it takes to get my revenge, then back to the support role I go. Now let me tell you, as a Brigitte player, you have no fear. Okay, maybe the odd Junkrat or Pharah pick, but besides that, you are pretty much as busted as they come. You know how, as kids on the playground, you'd be like, I got you, you're it now, but everyone always had that one friend that'll be like, nah, you only graced my shirt, doesn't count. That is pretty much the hero you are playing, because every time that any other character would end up flat on their face, you just continue to run at the enemies with reckless abandon. People say that playing Brig is no fun, but what could be more fun than becoming a near unkillable demigod every time you hit the Q button? And I know that a lot of you expected this episode to be about Zenyatta, considering Jeff is currently thinking about buffing him, but we shall not return to the spawn until I have my vengeance. So tape down those W keys and get ready to hold M1, because our story today takes place on Route 66. Now, before I go ranting about whether or not I like this map, I think I should highlight that I genuinely believe it to be really well designed. But do you ever just completely at random feel negatively about a map in this game solely based on your win rate? If I'm trying to assess it objectively, I really believe that this is one of the better maps in Overwatch. But for some reason, I can't help dreading the idea of playing on it just because I saw the defeat screen so very often on here. But whether I like it or not, we haven't had an episode on Route 66 in a while, and as such, it is time to storm out the gates and get this payload on the road. The defenders tactically positioned themselves to make use of the high ground and opted to not allow us to get on the card for free. Of course, my team was ready for that sort of challenge as we confidently marched up the ramp and pushed the enemies back into the dirt where they belonged. This was exactly the type of teamfight our composition excels at, fighting our opponents toe-to-toe until one side comes out victorious. Our initial goal, however, was merely the denial of high ground as we waited for the payload to continue moving forward. The enemy Ashe decided that no tricks were necessary as she drew first blood on our McCree, though that elimination did come at the cost of her own life. Their bodies, however, would be filled with life once again as our and their Mercy decided to undo the damage to have both of our teams fight each other at full strength. As the payload approached the first choke point around the corner, Reinhardt and I aggressively pushed on forward to make sure that the enemies can't get comfortable and set up another high ground defense. Habits and I were on the same page as we chased down their squishies as a sign of sheer disrespect. Neither their Ashe nor their Genji would get out alive, and we were confident that with an opening teamfight such as that, winning this game would be no trouble at all. But little did we know that, while we had been marching towards the enemy spawn, Archetype the Hammond player was busy stalling out the payload, thusly negating a lot of the benefits we thought we created by pushing up. But we cannot show our backs to the enemies, for such a retreat would turn the hunters into the prey. And as I watched Habits get flattened by the opposing Reinhardt, I decided that drastic measures had to be taken. I recklessly tossed my body at the opposition, hoping that I could buy Habits enough time to respawn and bring his ultimate to the front line. But despite popular belief, Brigitte cannot actually take on the entire enemy team on her own, and as such, I found myself eliminated. While my Hammond's minefield perfectly made use of the space I had created to deny entry to the payload, it only took one player being able to bypass that roadblock to stop our advance. Their Genji's Nanoblade would prove to be just what they needed to invalidate most of our effort, as our entire team would get wiped out and had to go back to the drawing board. The defenders have successfully taken control of the card with a clean wipe, allowing them to position however they desired. Coming up with a plan of attack now would certainly not be easy, but we were determined to take back what was rightfully ours. After having tasted defeat by the hands of the enemy Genji, our team decided that the best plan of attack was to mimic what already worked for the opposition. A swift counterattack was in order as Rodan dashed up into the sky, ready to deliver bloody vengeance. Well, let me stop you right here. While some of you might assume that a simple Dragon Blade will be enough to reclaim the payload, I can't help but highlight the fact that Rodan decided to engage this team fight using his ultimate. The fact that this was how the fight started also meant that every single player on the enemy team had access to every single one of their cooldowns. As such, Rodan's attempt of bringing honor to the attacking team would be met by more than just one Uno reverse card, utterly obliterating him at any chance of getting a kill. That misplay left the rest of us in a very awkward spot as we scrambled to get out and tried to attempt a quick reset. But the blue team was very persistent in their effort of taking me out, and broken character or not, there was no chance for me to arrive at the safety of my spawn room. Our second support decided to tuck tail, creating even more problems that we had yet to find solutions for. Thankfully, the defenders began to get overzealous, allowing my respawning teammates to punish the enemy Reinhardt for getting a little too aggressive. Even without a second support, we couldn't allow that elimination to go to waste, so whatever was left of our team marched on forward to butt heads with the defenders once again. Hammond and Winston would dive into the enemy backline for a combo Goomba stomp on the opposing Ana, and eventually also get rid of their Genji. Meanwhile, the payload, I could acquire my ultimate by peeling for our McCree, and of course I smashed that Q button immediately to join my front line and ensure that we finally captured this first point. Realizing what he was up against, the enemy Reinhardt barely even put up a fight to stop me. Gnome the Ashe player, on the other hand, had still some fight in them left, lining up a shot to take me out, but obviously was not aware of the fact that my McCree was still alive and well on the payload. At last, we would finally be able to claim the first checkpoint, but what awaited us on the other side was even more hardship. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, at that point I was just a designated payload bodyguard. All I really did was occasionally whip-shotting the odd enemy tank to get my Inspire going, while the rest of my team was out there doing just work. Habits had successfully tickled the enemy Genji into an early grave before Primal Raging, and when he got hit by a sleep dart, Hammond was tag teaming in to keep the enemies busy. It was quite the thing of beauty in watching this tank duo engage and disengage, forcing crucial CDs and even ultimates out the opposition, despite the fact that both of their supports were nowhere near them. Eventually I decided that I wanted to join in in on the fun, and it was in that moment that Archetype dropped onto the payload with a minefield, eliminating my poor Ana while also falling himself. The lack of healing had eventually caught up to my tanks as well, meaning that the only survivors were my McCree and yours truly. The enemy Reinhardt was determined to send every last attacker back to the spawn room, going as far as to not only charge my McCree, but even solo ult him. It is in moments like these that your body moves before you can even think. One of my teammates was in trouble and I was the only one around who could still save him. As a spur of the moment reaction, I tossed him a healing pack before rolling out towards him and making sure that my whip shot strikes true to deny the killing blow. This may have been the closest save I have ever pulled off, and I realized that more than wanting to annoy the enemies, I really just wanted to help my team. After all, I'm a support player at heart. It was in that very moment that I knew I had to stop my crusade and get back in touch with my roots. I cannot allow hatred to take over and turn me into what I hated the most: a DPS player. Dude, I swear somebody's gonna take offense to that. Speaking of DPS players, it turned out that saving my McCree was a worthwhile investment because he was more than willing to repay the debt. The defenders were setting up yet another Nanoblade to make sure that our act of defiance would not go unpunished. In an epic showdown of Blade versus Bullet, it was now in my McCree's hands to either save our team and secure the second point, or doom us all by collapsing under the pressure. A hero can always break out of a tough spot, and our McCree would deliver the final blow that allowed us to stay in the game. Nobody knows if we would have been able to recover from another team wipe, but thanks to our McCree's act of heroism, we were able to come back even stronger and stop the defenders before they could crush our spirits. Our team had gone far beyond just stabilizing and actually fully turned the momentum around. This time we weren't just looking towards their spawn, we were fully engaged in hugging their doors. But our role as gatekeepers will be put into question once the opposing McCree had been granted a nano boost, and it was only thanks to my Winston's valiant body block that I survived. But his sacrifice would not be in vain as I delivered righteous vengeance upon the enemy cowboy. As I continued to push towards their spawn to make sure that nobody could stop us on our path to glory, I was confident in us being able to take the dubs then and there. Sadly, it just wasn't meant to be that easy. As much as you might think that Brick is a difficult hero to deal with, considering the presence of more than just one Hammond and Doomfist, I was not the only one playing a broken character. The enemy hamster continued to stall the payload, and just like on point A, the timely use of a number of ultimate abilities would drive home the fact that spawn camping isn't always the solution. That doesn't mean that we didn't try to spawn camp them again, but considering we didn't win the game on the back of that, we didn't have a choice but to approach the last team fight with a different plan of attack. That plan included the pressing of many Q buttons, but as we approached the objective, we were intercepted by a Doomfist coming from the top ropes. Wait a second, what? Well, as it turns out, we, C9'd the cart. Listen, I'm not here to throw shade at my tanks who decide to hard eat into the enemy backline rather than touching the card, especially because I spent as much time spawn camping in this match as they did. At the end of the day, victory or not, this match helped me finding the righteous path once again. Done other days of hard locking Sombra to tilt the enemy team into madness, and I will no longer play Brig, except with the explicit purpose of helping out my team. The end. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. At last, we can put the Fun Police saga to rest. Well, I guess until I have to play against Doomfist again. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, do let me know by dropping me a like on your way out. Consider subscribing if you want to see more, and definitely hit that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace.